のように侍は
Tōashiとはな。わしが腰痛めした。
Ansei Tōashi, which is nicknamed the Samurai Marathon, was this foot race that was open to actual samurai of the Annaka Domain. It was approximately 30 kilometers in length, which is about 18.5 miles, and it took place in 1854 to 1860 in Japan. So real-life samurai actually ran in this marathon. And then it was just forgotten for a long time until it got reinstituted in 1955. And to this day, you'll get crowds of people dressing up as samurai and just running this marathon every year. And in 2019, we got a movie titled Samurai Marathon covering the exact origins of this event. So this is a movie that I never heard of. In fact, I probably never would have seen it. So big shout out to the Nerdy Ronin. He's a friend. He's got a great YouTube channel. And he's the one that told me about it. So apparently he found this film at like a dollar store. And I don't know what kind of dollar stores he has, but you know, the ones by me, they usually just have crap. So that's a good find. He also did a review, so I recommend checking it out. After you watch mine, I'll provide a link in the description. And I'll just say, after watching it, this is definitely not your typical samurai film. I couldn't find this at a dollar store, but luckily SamuraiDVD.com has it, so Merlin gave it to me for purpose of review. And he also gave me the film Samurai Hustle. And I could see why, because oddly enough, both films have to do with samurai running. And both are also categorized as comedies, though I will say Samurai Marathon is a lot more serious than Samurai Hustle. So if any of you want this film, you could just get it on SamuraiDVD.com. You could also get Samurai Hustle there. Use the discount code Bushido Blues at checkout. I'll provide links in the description. So this film is described as being a lively action flick with a samurai twist. And I could definitely agree with that. It's a comedy, but it's quite a few other genres. It's adventure, action, drama, all in one. And when I looked up who directed this film, I was pretty surprised. It was directed by Bernard Rose, and that's the same guy who did the original Candyman. And that's probably the last person on the planet that I would have guessed directed this film, because this is nothing like Candyman. But when you watch it, it just seems like a Japanese person directed it. You know, it doesn't really seem Western. And you know, the original Candyman, I will say, is an excellent film. You know, it's a horror classic of the 90s. I honestly thought the new one was trash, same with all the sequels. But still, it's just weird he would direct a Japanese movie like this. The film stars Takuro Sato. He's famous for playing Rurouni Kenshin. And that was a really pleasant surprise because I do like that actor a lot. The film itself was adapted from the novel The Marathon Samurai, 5 Tales of Japan's First Marathon. And that book itself is inspired by the real event. So first off, I just want to say I agree with what the Nerdy Ronin said. I think the story itself is a bit convoluted. And I'll just do my best now just to summarize it without spoiling any of it. So in 1855, the United States naval officer Commodore Perry presents various objects of peace to the chief minister to the Shogun.
Metallic cartridge, single-action army revolver. Called Peacemaker.
This is all in hopes that Japan will break its long-standing tradition of isolation from outsiders. But unimpressed by the news of a potential Western influence, the lord of the Annaka Domain decides to draw an unplanned 36-mile foot race involving only his samurai and foot soldiers to see how in shape his army is. To whoever wins, he will grant them any wish they desire. It sounds a lot like what happens when you collect all the Dragon Balls. But mistaking it for an act of rebellion, a spy sends word to the Shogun, who in turn dispatches several of his men to stop the uprising. Meanwhile, Princess Yuki, yes, there's a princess, and she has the same name as the feisty princess from the Hidden Fortress. Princess Yuki plots her escape from her father's castle so that she can journey to Edo and begin a journey to America. With all the fighters exhausted, the Lord himself distracted, and a band of killers en route, the fate of Annaka seems destined for destruction. So, like I said, it's very convoluted, there's a lot going on, but when you really dissect it, it really is a simple story. It really didn't need to be this complicated. And when you watch it, it looks like a really well-made film. In fact, it is a good film, but it feels like something's missing. I mean, there's good action, there's some good bloody fight scenes with swords, but still, there's nothing really that just stands out. The main character, who's played by Sato, gets introduced and then you get some of his backstory, but it's spread throughout the film. So sometimes when you're watching it, you're not really sure what's a flashback and what's currently happening, just because it's spread out. But luckily, he's the only character that just has a backstory. I could imagine if there was more, just how confusing that would be. But there still is plenty of just jumping around between the different characters, establishing them. And this is all before the marathon itself begins, which takes place not until about an hour in the film. In the time between the start of the film and the race, there's just numerous motivations and conflicting interests, and it's all used just to set up the race. This all includes the spy, Princess Yuki's rebellion against her father's wishes, several runners with the desire just to win the race, and even a newly retired guardsman who joins the marathon seemingly just to prove that he wasn't ready to quit protecting the Lord. A bunch of people get shot up, there's sword fights, lots of running, a lot is going on. And having not read the original novel, it is unclear if the 5 stories it covers are just individual tales that eventually come together. But it doesn't quite work in a over 100-minute film that needs to rush to get to the race while still creating satisfying introductions. So this isn't really the strongest adaptation of historical events, but I'm going to say overall, I'll say I was satisfied. It was refreshing to be able just to view a different kind of samurai film. In the film, you get to go on an adventure, you learn something new, at least I did. I never really knew about this marathon before this movie, so I'll say that's a positive. It's always good to learn something. And overall, I'm going to say there's definitely more positive than negative in this film. It definitely helped that the actors were all good. They put on good performances. We got to see Rurouni Kenshin once again. He was great in this. And there was also some pretty good chemistry among all the actors. So if you can handle a kind of messy narrative, but also enjoy the race itself and its just historical relevance, I'll say you might enjoy this film. If you want it, it's available on SamuraiDVD.com. Don't forget to use the discount code Bushido Blues at checkout. And like always, thanks for watching.